Hey everyone, I'm Benj. This is What Could Be Bad. Thank you for joining us. We are in Venice Beach, California at a very unique place called Vadim House. I was invited here through Defiance Media. My friend Mark Scarpa let me shoot here through a couple of contacts of his, and I'm so honored and grateful to be able to be here with Connie Lim, known as MILCK. I guess I do want to start with where the name comes from. I'm sure you've heard that question a lot, but also thank you for doing this. I know how busy you are, and I'm really appreciative that we could connect.
Well, I feel the same way. Thanks for your time. Thank you for asking what MILCK is, because when I first came up with this concept, I thought that it'd be very understandable, and I realized, oh, it takes some explaining. So my last name is Lim, L-I-M.
Yeah.
And so if you spell Lim backwards, it's M-I-L, which are the first three letters of MILCK. And then it goes M-I-L-C-K. And so you ask, what's C-K? C-K is Connie Kimberly, my first two initials.
Beautiful.
In the Chinese language, we put our last names first. So in Chinese, my Chinese name is Lin Kangni. So Ling is Lim and Kangni is Connie. And so in a cool way, MILCK allows my last name to come first.
Yeah.
And it's also, it was during this time where I really needed to free myself of the identity I was born with, like Connie Lim. It was holding all the expectations of my parents, all the expectations of my childhood, high school, all that. And then just flipping it around and doing MILCK. I was like, oh, I like that because it frees me, and also is conceptual, because I've always hoped my music would nourish the next generation, or anything that I'm doing is nourishing the next generation, which is what MILCK is.
Yeah. It is a nourishing thing, unless you're like me and you're lactose intolerant, but there's still almond milk, there's still oat milk and all of this.
Yes, well, that's a good point, because I've always thought I've been a bad Asian American. I didn't quite follow the rules, and a lot of Asian Americans are lactose intolerant. And it's of course I named my project something that a lot of Asians are allergic to, and I say bad Asian American jokingly, with a slight of truth, is in the traditional upbringing, being a musician is just not in the cards. You know, you have three cards. You have a doctor.
Yeah.
You can become a doctor. You can be a lawyer, or you can be a doctor. So those are three options, and that's stereotypical, and not every Asian family, obviously, but my family is that.
It is. So that was one thing I was wondering, because I saw that you were classically trained in piano, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So did that start an internal issue at a young age with your family?
That's a really insightful question. I started singing around the house a lot.
Yeah.
And I was afraid of the dark. And so I would sing all the time. So my dad was like, if she's gonna sing, she's gonna sing correctly. So I was very lucky. So they put me in classical singing.
Oh.
And
so it started with your voice, and then went to piano later?
Yes.
Okay.
In the 80s, there were these small tape recorders, and it's for doctors. My dad's a doctor, to record the voice memos.
Little tiny
with the tiny little cassette tapes.
Yeah.
I would borrow my dad's and walk around the backyard and sing songs in there and stuff.
Wow.
So I was already I didn't realize what I was doing. I was just having a good time.
Yeah.
Piano then was a separate thing. And I was learning classical piano. And then in high school, I started understanding I could do both at the same time. I could sing and play at the same time. That moment...
Not an easy thing to do, let alone learn it at a young age and figure out how to put things together like that. I imagine that was kind of a moment to where you put it all.
I still remember that exact moment that my body figured it out. I felt almost this lift, and then my brain went it almost a space opened up. And I remember the lighting in the room. I remember where I was sitting. It was a very formative moment, and it was all driven by actually a need to heal from trauma that drove me to find this. I didn't know that at the moment, but looking back, yeah.
Do you mind me asking what that
Not
trauma
at all.
was?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I have learned to balance my vulnerability and learn to share what I think is important to share, just in hopes that it makes someone's life better, and then to keep whatever I need to keep a sacredness for myself. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And that's what this is for, is to destigmatize and normalize those conversations without prying in a way that would disrespect someone's privacy.
Totally.
So thank you for opening up.
Oh, yeah. So when I was 14, I was dating a 17-year-old boy. And it was both sexual assault and domestic violence.
Oh.
And I wasn't aware that that's what it was. It's from a mix of my personality, the way I was raised, the way that I survived those moments was to like shrink. Because the idea is like you're not safe and you want to do whatever you can to not upset the person that could do you harm. So just like do what you can to get through the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that led me to doing things that basically I gave away parts of myself that I wasn't ready to.
Yeah.
And then I eventually shared with my parents, and they didn't have the tools to understand that it wasn't my fault. So then it became my fault. And then,
Oh, that's hard.
and so I carried that with me for years and years and years, and thought, and what I think my life's work is to help support people. The coping mechanism at that time for me was to shrink and become invisible so I could get through the moments. And then when I shared with my family didn't have the tools to understand, or the communication tools to dig through what happened, to let it be revealed that it wasn't my fault. But so for 10 years, I thought it was my fault. And I think the biggest taxation of this whole process is those 10 years, right? Those 10 years of me believing that I was bad, that I had done something to attract that bad
Which is totally not the
experience.
case with SA at all.
Right.
Yeah, and then with your family doubling on that by making you feel that it was, I can't imagine.
Right, and they were working with their best tools because they
Yeah.
absolutely love me, and also the conversations were just all closed behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And like the work you're doing is to like bring it out into the open, and the more people do that, the more educated we can be. And so I have written a musical about this that's coming out in La Jolla.
I'm aware,
Playhouse.
and I was going to ask you about this, so I'm glad it naturally came
Yeah,
out
yeah.
because I'm very impressed. The La Jolla Playhouse is world-renowned. I live in San Diego, so I'm super excited that I'll be nearby, and I intend
You
to
gotta
catch
come.
it. I
Let
will.
me know.
I will.
Yeah.
I want to bring my wife out there and have like a date night and enjoy the show.
Yes.
Is the goal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a heartfelt and funny, hopefully, show. It's structured around revealing this miscommunication between daughter and parents.
Yeah.
And then how a 30-something-year-old woman comes back to figure out how to reclaim her truth with people she loves without, what a delicate balance it is to try to stay true to self while also trying to honor your parents. I mean, that's like a huge journey for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What was it like writing about a real experience? Were there moments where you felt a pressure to code anything a certain way for the stage as opposed to exactly maybe like the words that were in a defined moment?
That's such a good question. I definitely felt like I had to separate myself as much as possible in certain moments. In certain moments, I had to become very close and protective of the details. So there was a phase in the creative process where I was like, here's my story, here's my story, here's my story. And then the book writer, Sam Chance, she's this award-winning playwright, she's a genius. She sat with me and listened to my story. And then we took that and then we started making a new family to expose what I had gone through. A lot of it is very similar to my family, a lot of it is very different.
Okay.
And then the playwright Sam Chance, Adrian Gonzalez is my co-writer. The three of us put our own life stories into it. So that was really challenging because I'm putting in my most vulnerable story and then allowing for other artists to put their own stuff. And so then now it starts to change shape.
Yeah.
And then I have to figure out, am I okay with that changing shape? Or is that going to hurt my family's feelings? Because now they're like, wait, I'm not like that. It's like, oh, but it's not you fully. So it's a very vulnerable place.
Sure it is.
I probably disassociated a lot during the process. I almost kept it like a secret for a few years. I didn't tell anyone I was working on this.
Okay.
And I changed all the names. We made it really distance from me. And then finally, when we started sharing it, I immediately changed my mind and I was like, now it needs to be my story again.
Yeah.
But to make it, I needed it to be other people because I couldn't do it. I like literally, I would get stuck like, okay, well, my sister is not that way. She's this, it was like, I would get stuck too much.
Too close to home at heart. Like I can tell the deep respect and love you have for your family is there. And that's something I have for mine as well. So I think I could understand if I was writing something that would live outside of, my immediate, circumstances, like on a stage that people are going to be talking about and all that. Like you want to be respectful, but you also know, like as a songwriter, you want something that hits and that connects and can bring people into the storyline. So I can understand the opposing things. Can I ask, after you decided to like bring it back to you, was there a conversation with your family about how to, like for them, like what to maybe expect or understand was coming?
I did not talk to my parents during the first workshop. I didn't let any of my family see it.
Okay.
So in the, like I might be over explaining the musical theater workings. I'm new to it, so I'm going to just say it.
Feel free. Yeah,
so
it's
basically,
okay.
it's like when we write the first draft, then we can get commissioned to hire actors and have a reading because musicals are so fascinating in that you can't figure out if it works until you try it with a live audience and on stage.
Interesting.
So you could do a table reading of a song and it feels really good. And then you put it on stage because of the size of the stage or whatever, that song becomes like it doesn't work anymore. Like you just don't know.
There's an energy to live anything, let alone theater is very different than a live rock and roll concert or something that I would probably be able to define like what's going to work and all that in a good way. I think I understand what you're saying. And it's good I think for the audience too, like all the different types of performative arts have their unique challenges and idiosyncrasies, and it takes work. It's real work. Like I've always thought there was like a misunderstanding about how much it takes to be a creative.
Well said.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you're detailing your experience with it because it's healthy for people to understand why artists feel a need to do this stuff.
Right, and like why it's nice to get compensated so we can do it well.
Yeah, there you go.
When you have a workshop, you can invite people and you're sitting in the room very much like how you held rock concerts. Like you can feel if people are into it or not, and you can like change your set list on the spot. For musical theaters, like then we write notes like, hey, we got to cut the dialogue here. We need a new song. That song we don't need X, Y, Z. So I didn't invite my parents to the first. They haven't seen it yet at all.
Okay.
I didn't even tell them about it for the first 2 workshops, which was over the span of a year, and then. By the time La Jolla, once they decided, okay, it's final, we're going to slot it for the season, that's when I started really starting to tell people. I was like, okay, it's time.
It's happening, yeah.
Because I needed space during those workshops to look at how we were telling the story about this new family that is from my own healing journey, and then feel like, am I making sure I'm holding the main character accountable for the things that she didn't see and do too? It's not just this like sob story to tell one perspective. Like, are we telling this from all perspectives?
Yeah.
In as loving as a way as possible.
Yeah.
And you know what's so awesome?
What?
I told my sister, I was like, it's inspired by our life, and I feel like I did my best to tell the story with care and love. And she, like, without a beat, like, she texted right back and she was like, I trust you to tell the story that you need to tell for yourself. I'm just so happy our family is where we're at now.
I love that.
I know.
To have family members that support you must, and respect your choices that they want you to be able to make, that must feel kind of liberating for the next steps in the process.
Oh my God. Like, as you asked that, it's like I can feel all my ancestors like feeling a sense of accomplishment for us to get to this place where they have an ancestor, like, or they have this descendant, me, who's able to make a living off of ideas and art from our very, it was a hard journey that my great grandparents had gone with World War II. And I'm just going back and learning about like China's journey through World War II, which is like, we can nerd out about that. But I feel like to have my sister say that, and then to have my mom be proud after years of being really stressed out about me choosing this path is a huge victory.
Yeah.
It's like, it's ancestral.
So I can relate to that because my grandfather immigrated here to America and landed in Rhode Island, where, you know, I grew up a Red Sox fan and all that. But like, you know, he was an immigrant. He left Russia at 2 years old. And, you know, my great grandfather Isidore, the story is that he had the Bolsheviks knocked on his door and said, "You need to get out of this town by the morning, or we're going to kill your whole family." And they were at gunpoint. So he, you know, packed up his stuff, and they said the story is that as he left that house, by the time he left, his hair had all turned white because he was so scared, and it took months to get over to America. But now I feel I'm the beneficiary of all these generations of people who didn't have the benefits of freedom and what we enjoy here. But I also feel now such a juxtaposition with the way I feel like our culture is addressing immigrants. It's disheartening. I know there are people that maybe shouldn't, you know, be in America that are causing problems, but I don't think that there's any evidence that that is the majority and justifying some of the circumstances in our world. But like you, anyway, I'm getting on a tangent with that. But
please.
but I
I
think
love it.
I know you are heartfelt in addressing these things, and
Right.
and it's on the global stage too, not just the local. So I want to talk about that. But what I'm getting to is your identity as a Chinese American. It's a responsibility, not like a burden or anything, to honor those people, like, and that drives you. Is that part of your creative core?
Man, so when I first started, I feel like there was a part of me that was so conditioned to not address my identity. Growing up, you know, I'm going to be 40 this year, so I was born in the States in the 80s.
Okay.
And so growing up as a kid, there was a desire to assimilate in many ways.
Okay.
Internally, I won't speak for all Asian Americans, but in our family, it was, we have to find a way to succeed in this landscape. And so how do we do that? So in that race to succeed in this, then you kind of run away from the things that maybe we were made of.
Okay.
Leaving behind certain things. And at that point, I was so focused on finding my place and belonging here that I wasn't thinking about that. But once the world got really real, like I think in the past, I mean, the world's been real this whole time, but once the geopolitical environments got so painful, as a U.S. citizen, kind of seeing like what we're involved in, what we're not involved in, and like kind of coming up against the rock and the hard place.
Yeah.
I couldn't go left or right because everywhere I was going here in space and time was, there was so much grief. And so the only way I could go is go back to ancestors. And so I think about my grandfather, my great grandmother. I think about them all the time now, and they actually help me cope with realities now. I feel like I have, they're not like real verbal conversations, but every day I check in with a visual memory of my grandfather. I have a picture of my grandfather on my computer screen.
Yeah.
And then I think about my great grandmother, my great grandfather, and then that kind of drives me in my actions now.
Yeah.
And it's given me a lot of clarity. It's changed my music. So this past year, today actually, I'm releasing a song called A Water Hymn.
Yeah.
And it's part of this Hymns and Battle Cries a cappella EP.
Yeah.
That I think I'm channeling some of my ancestors, and it's all a cappella. It's like these battle hymns in a way.
I've heard some of them on social media, and I look forward to listening to the entirety of them. And with that one, I've seen like the water hymn. It's about flowing like water. Can you elaborate on why you chose the analogy you chose for that? And I will say they sound very ethereal, and not interrupted by airplanes over our heads and all that. I had a cousin who did this like it was like a Bulgarian women's choir.
Oof,
and
I love.
It was really powerful music that like transported you to a different time. And when I listened to that, it's so unlike, you know, pop music and rock and roll music. Were you trying to specifically channel like a entirely different sound in order to connect with that ancestry and align with it?
I was trying to create music that is hyper portable for people, because I think about when we're in times of war and times of contraction in society, there's a lot of fear, and prices are rising, wages are not rising.
Yeah.
And it's hard right now. And I can feel, and as empaths, we can feel the efforts and the struggles. So I wanted something, as we're like kind of our heads are down and we're just like trying to get through. Like, I wanted people to just have something that they don't need a guitar or drums or whatever. It's just a cappella.
Yeah.
And
The voice.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of your musical endeavors, you know, before you even realized maybe what you were doing started there, which
Yeah.
maybe there's an element of that playing into like the connectivity
Yeah, that's
of the
true.
generations. And
That's so
everything.
true. Thanks for tying that connection. Yeah. I have memories of walking in the backyard path, just recording and just vocals. And I love instrumentals. I mean, I'm a fan of OAR, and
Oh,
like
thanks.
I just, there's so much power in that, and it's so fun, and also it creates this whole sonic bed for people to swim in. Then we go back ancient times. Is probably this voice is what made us think like, oh, maybe we could create song, you know?
Yeah. Can I ask again
Yeah.
about the water specifically? Because
Oh,
that
yeah.
analogy to me is very fitting, because like I just feel like the media now is like bombarding our minds with so many crazy, impactful, unavoidably difficult, you know, situations that we just keep having to sort of like, oh, so now we're dealing with this catastrophe.
Yes.
Now there's this that, you know, is going to change, like, okay, maybe I can't afford to drive to work, you know, in my own car every day of the week or something. You know, everybody's got a different circumstance. So
Yeah.
was it that flowing idea was to liken people's individual experience, or was it more within you? You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what-
That's a great question. I would say most of what I create feels like it's collective. I think if anything, I'm trying to balance out my creativity to talk more about my personal life, but my focus is usually like, how's everyone doing?
Yeah.
And then I think when I remember, you know, in 2017, when I was first getting really aware of political issues, that's when a lot of mainstream thinkers like started being like, maybe I should think more political, like be more aware of what's happening.
Yes.
I was young in that process, right? So you see, so when I was young, when we're young and we see an issue, we're like, we're gonna fix that, you know?
Yeah.
Because we're not aware that actually there's a string of issues that are gonna go on for years and years and years.
Yes.
And so then as I'm matured, it's been almost 10 years since 2017 when my song went viral at the Women's March.
Which I want to talk about too.
Yeah. And so it's been 10 years since this pivotal moment of activism and music joining hands. Now it's like, all right, I think we're in this for a while. Once we started getting into like war, I was like, I think I need to, I just like started naturally trying to cope by looking at nature. Trees, water, winds, like they have wisdom for us to look at. And maybe
Yeah.
this is where I think my ancestors are really tapping in. So a water hymn came to me, melody first, and then all of a sudden I just started writing about water. And I was like, I guess I'm channeling Bruce Lee ancestor, you know,
Oh, yeah.
because he always said, be like
Be
water.
like water. Yeah.
And then I started discovering that in Hong Kong during the umbrella protests, where students were protesting some China government censoring the education, they were like we're gonna like decide what the curriculum is, and the Hong Kong students were like, no, right? And so they had this huge revolution.
Yeah.
This is like in the past 5 years.
Yeah, I'm aware, yeah.
Yeah,
I have
right.
some friends that just moved from there, and that was one of the things they cited as a challenge of raising, you know, their kids at that time, I think, were like, you know, 6 and 10, and they could see that there were issues that they didn't want their children to have to fight alongside or just deal with, as
Totally.
they wanted them to just be able to be children.
Yes, yeah, and one of the languages that the protesters used was water. They would say, scatter like mist, harden like ice, flow like water, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is in my blood.
Yep.
Like, and so,
I get that.
and I think I told you off screen that I broke my C6, my fractured,
Yeah.
and I was healing from that when I channeled this song.
Oh, wow.
And so it was kind of teaching me, like, you know, water be my teacher, water carry me, teach me transformation, take me to the sea. Tell me how you break through rock
Yeah,
and flow on what tries to block, and water be my teacher, water carry me.
that's beautiful.
Because water can freeze around rock and crack it.
Totally. Yeah. I've always found it amazing. Like just going to a beach where I live in Encinitas, there's all these rocks that are so smooth. And that only happens because the water is affecting them over, eons. And I think the idea that, something that you can manipulate like that and control in a way over time can actually affect you more than that.
Right.
That it's affecting itself or what, like, you know what I'm saying. So
Totally. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's an amazing analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're getting kind of burned right now in some ways, right? And what does water do? It doesn't just like keel over and, give up. It turns into mist.
Yes.
And then it can travel, like there's atmospheric rivers where water will travel across the globe.
Yep.
Which, back to your immigrant point, like water also teaches us that like even water is an immigrant. Mm-hmm. There's the water that rises in the Philippines travels the atmospheric rivers and falls in the States. So should we not be drinking that water?
Exactly. Yeah, I know. And also within the water, there's all these channels that are like, what's that movie, Finding Nemo, when they catch the current and they're in that, tube of, fast moving different temperature water or whatever, and they're just riding it. I think there's something to that in the big picture of everything that, as humans, obviously, we're made of a lot of water.
We are.
And so that connection is really important to be aware of. And I love the way that it's like the most gentle way of sharing a very strong analogy. So I really love that one. Absolutely. Yeah. So I just learned about you through my friend Ben. And what's up, Ben? Thank you for connecting us.
Ben and Tellis.
Yeah, he's the man. So obviously when someone meets someone new and you're, going to do some research or whatever, you do check out social media. And so I know that's not all of you, obviously, and everyone, we are not our social media feeds. There's a lot more to all of us.
We're not?
But you're very open and vulnerable, and you process sound and music not only in your mind but through your body, which as a bass player, when I perform, I like to have as much bass as anyone on stage could handle, not just me. I like to feel it everywhere, and I think that somehow translates to a performance that's more connected with those on stage as well as those in the audience, because everybody's getting that. So when you go through these moments of, all of this in life, and you're feeling the writing process hit and you're inspired and you're trying to be creative, how does that work into what you're gonna write?
Yeah, it's okay. So in terms of creating, I think when we're just starting, it's so visceral as a kid, and it just comes out. And I think as I got professional, as you know, this journey, it's like I signed with a label, et cetera, et cetera. I started feeling this pressure to create.
Yeah.
And so that's in my mind. My mind is saying I must create. So then I'm writing with my head. I remember going to Raphael Sadiq's studio, and I was so nervous because he's so cool. And I was like, I have to write a really cool thing because it's Raphael Sadiq. So I have to be. And so I was on my computer. He was playing gorgeous guitar, and I'm like, I'm going to write the coolest lyrics. And then I was like, it's not coming. And I was like, I have to put the laptop down. I was like, right. So the laptop immediately activates my head. So I was like, put it down, dance, just dance, move. And then it started coming.
Yeah.
And so I have learned, I don't know if you've heard of this 3-step process, of creativity, and a lot of people have referenced it as a Disney model, but I think it transcends that, but I'm glad Disney uses it. But it's 3 phases. The first is to create like a child.
Okay.
No thinking, no bad idea, just
get it out.
Get it out.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. And then take a break. Second phase is to refine like a scientist. That's when the judgment comes in. Okay. That's where taste and curation comes in.
Yep.
And then third phase is to surrender like a warrior, to just art is technically never finished, it's just abandoned. Is take the discipline to just let go.
Yep.
And let God.
Let it be finished.
Yeah.
And let it go out. Yeah.
Exactly. And so when I was getting really thinky about my process, I was combining phase 1 and 2. I was channeling, but then judging it in the moment. And so it was like pleasure killer.
Yeah.
But then now I've learned blah, 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 no judgment, play, fun, visceral, feeling like music through the body,
Yep.
just what feels good, and then take a break, and then come back and choose. And that's changed the game for me.
Okay.
Because I thought I could, because after I signed with the label and all this, I tried to write by myself, and I was combining phase 1 and 2. I was like, I don't know how to write by myself anymore. And then I learned this process, and I disciplined myself. I sat down and I did one day of just blah, 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 no judgment. Next day I came back and I sorted. And like, as someone who has ADHD and who fears that like I won't finish things because of my like brain and how it works, it worked.
That's amazing.
Like, and
That's
then,
cool to hear.
And then you just keep coming back to it and chiseling. And that's how I wrote. I have one artist cut, because I don't really write for other artists, but I wrote a song and I did it that way by myself, and then it's on John Legend's album.
Congratulations. That's a big one.
I was stoked because his voice is like thick and full, and like to hear him sing the lyrics that way. But
What was the song title?
It's called Stardust.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta give that one a listen.
Yeah.
I love that. And honestly, I think the process of being creative changes in life. Like, you know, you're a kid and you are just kind of emoting, and like it's getting out there, and these songs just, you know, flow as they flow, and you haven't honed in on your way, you know. And I mean, I'm not like an all the time writer, but I have written a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And I know that when I would do this when I was young, I'd just be like, okay, like that's what it was. But now I like actually work, you know, to your point. I think I could benefit from trying to go back to some of that unintentional creativity and focusing it in. Do you feel like it's a healthier approach for you now versus if you had tried this when you were young? Would it not have kind of maybe flowed because it was like too maybe like, you know,
Structured?
cerebral or structured? Yeah.
I think it would have helped, because once we form expectation, once an artist or a human forms expectation, it kills the natural flow of energy, I think.
Yeah.
And so this helps to protect that first phase.
Okay.
To create like a child is when you channel stuff, or when you make a beat and it makes you feel good and you're not overthinking, you're just flowing.
Yeah.
That's the kid power. And then leaving the knowledge, the theory, the technique for phase 2.
Yes.
Because that phase 2 stuff is like such a joy killer for the kid. The kid just wants to play.
Yeah. I totally hear where that's at. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think I would have liked that, because as a kid I was writing and I wouldn't be able to finish stuff because I was like, wah! And then like whatever next, and so I have a bunch of that. But then if I learned that technique to go back and tinker.
Yep. I have a buddy who keeps a journal of all the things he works on, like per day. He's like analyzing like the sound through his own way of describing a sound, so he can remember like what he wrote, and then he goes back to things, and when he writes something else that might be like that, he can tie the pieces together, which
cool.
I think is an interesting and similar approach. Changing gears.
Change.
Okay, so there's two big things I want to make sure we talk
Okay.
about. One is the UN, but I also wanted to talk about the march of Israeli women and Palestinian women. So, you know, there's been a ton of conversation out there about, you know, Free Palestine and all this, and I feel for both sides of the equation, and I also think governments don't represent the people. And no matter what we say now, there's 20 arguments of why we might have a wrong perspective to someone else. So whatever, like it's going to happen. The reason I want to talk about this is because when I was 17, turning 18, I went on a trip to Israel, and I was welcomed into Palestinian homes, or a certain Palestinian home, by other kids at that point, and they made me coffee, and they wanted to learn about my experience, and they were normal humans.
Yeah.
You know, it was just people who were open-hearted, and I think there's a loss of like that part of this whole story, that there's government actors, which obviously we're seeing in our own country right now. You know, it's April 8th, and there's a lot going on right now. And so what I was really impressed with is that both sides came together as mothers, as women who, you know, became just a sign, a signal point, you know, like of what really matters. And it's about like people being people together, and not listening to the powers that be and doing something together to show solidarity of cause.
Yes.
And you were able to be inside of that and be a big part of that. I was really impressed with what I saw about
Thanks.
that. Can you talk about what it was like to do that, but also like to be asked to do that and to understand how that would like unfold and happen? Because it was in Italy, right? It was in,
Yes.
yeah.
So thanks for asking. This project is about the Mother's Call. The Mother's Call is an alliance between two organizations. The Israeli organization is Women Wage Peace. The Palestinian organization is Women of the Sun.
Okay.
They have been in partnership for 10 years. So
It's not new.
it's not new, and they have survived the potential rift of October 7th.
Yep.
They sat through and held hands through that.
Wow.
And stayed in conversation. So for me, respect.
Yes.
And is every movement going to be perfect, pristine, and please everybody? Absolutely not.
No way.
And am
Yeah.
I totally intimidated and feel like a student of this? Yes. Like
Yeah.
when they asked me to be a part of this, I actually was like, this is scary because I'm not of either lands and I am learning. And so they're like, why don't you just come meet the mothers?
Yes.
And what I'm learning over time, and I've sat with some change makers who are elders now, what it always comes down to is relationship. At the end of the day, we can talk about this, we can talk about that, but what it comes down to is building relationship.
Yes.
And so sitting with these mothers, the Israelis and the Palestinian mothers, at that point, Italy wouldn't even give 4 of the 5 Palestinian mothers visas, so they had to join on Zoom. I was heartbroken. So it was already
Wow.
like you see what's happening in the globe and what obstacles both sides have to navigate.
Yeah.
And so I held that in my heart, and I was so sad I couldn't meet all the mothers. I was happy I got to meet the Women Wage Peace, and then I was like, who are these other mothers with Women of the Sun?
Yeah.
And so I kept asking them questions because they were like, we want music to this. I was like, all right, well, it's got to be your words. And at first I was like, maybe I need to invite an Israeli Palestinian singer, all that. But then I was like, maybe I just take their words and then we make a song together.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if they were going to resonate. And actually, when I sent the song, the Israeli group, Women Wage Peace, immediately gave me feedback and they were in. I was like, thank God. But I didn't hear from the Palestinian women. I was like, maybe they hate it. But it's really because they were just they're just up to their ears with work. So it wasn't until I was in Rome and I was able to hear from them that both groups would ask me to sing it when they sat together. And then they sing it on their own. And so basically it's called By the Olive Trees. Because what is something that is on the land that has been here longer than us, that knows the potential of what could be fruitful? It's the olive trees. And both Israeli and Palestinian women gravitated towards that. And it's just the idea of them being able to walk side by side is already a radical thing.
Yeah.
For Reem, the Palestinian mother, and Yael, the Israeli mother, to walk holding hands.
I saw that. That was a powerful image. Yeah.
Barefoot in Rome.
Yeah.
It was they're risking their lives. And maybe the level of risk is different for both women, right? It's not about comparing, it's acknowledging oh my gosh, this is really a huge risk for them. So even them, the decision of them walking together, they weren't sure if they should sing the song with us. For Reem, for her to sing with an American and an Israeli at the same time is so what we decided is that we're going to have Italian singers, and then I'm going to sing with Italian singers, and the mothers will walk, and we're just there to cheer them on and as support.
Yeah, I think the approach of taking thoughtfulness, into it is absolutely necessary, and I commend you for figuring out a way that felt right for everybody. And the times we're living in declare that there are different circumstances I mean, over there, I'm sure it's what happens in Gaza is different, obviously, than Tel Aviv, or, but it's also Gaza compared to the West Bank is going to be different.
Yeah.
There's different,
very different,
politics of each of those areas. And then, you want to be there to help and support, like you're saying, but you don't want to step on toes, I'm sure, and cause waves or anything like that.
Right, yeah. And so I'm taking the lead of these brave women. And so Women of the Sun is based out in Bethlehem, and they work with women in Gaza. They work on a bunch of different regions. And their focuses right now are to create economic independence for the women members.
Yeah.
And then, I have goosebumps. So next week they start a simulation class where they have roundtable discussions teaching the women how to hold their own and be confident in negotiations, because
wow, yeah.
they are, I have goosebumps, they're already manifesting that they will be at the negotiation tables for the well-being of their people. So how do you hold yourself? How do you speak with men at the table?
Yep. So here's a whole other side of what we should talk about regardless is, the fact that I'm a feminist and that I believe that there's so much lost human capital in our world because women aren't treated equally. And I'm glad we can have this conversation because I know you're working, in a way that will help that, even out. And that's very important now more than ever, and becoming more evident, in every daily news cycle. And so what is it like to feel or to know that you're in that position, also tying in your heritage and your ancestors and, being a recipient of all those generations to be in this moment?
I feel a deep joy, because my ancestors, also, during, I'm just learning this too. So my great-grandfather was captured during World War II and forced into a labor camp in China.
Wow.
And then him and a lot of his colleagues got addicted to opium. And so my great-grandmother had to carry raising 3 kids with all of that happening in the backdrop of war. And then...
Strong woman.
Yes. And so the trauma that she held in her body got passed down, right? And so talking about mental health and the expectations of how women should be, so there's the war as the backdrop, and then there's also then the traditional viewpoints of how a woman should be.
Yeah.
All coming together creates a pressure cooker for a woman's spirit and brain. And I feel that in my lineage. And I remember being a kid being told that women with big eyes and small mouths were more attractive because you observed more and spoke less. And I was like, oh crap, I'm screwed. I'm not going to be able to play this attractive game.
I'm glad you're following your path. Yeah, it's very important.
And I got confused. I was like, Mom, you're not that way at all. You're so strong. And there were so many things that were put onto the image of what we should be, but they weren't that.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just being more honest, this is not who we are. Some of us are and some of us are not. And I think it balances society. So I carry that. I feel a joy.
Yeah.
Holy crap, I can make art to circumvent the debates that happen in these spaces.
Yeah.
Music just cuts right through.
Well, and with that, the image I have, you saying that is you standing barefoot at the UN, singing to everyone, trying to bring some peace and togetherness to, organization, whatever it is, that is troubled by politics in all these different cultures, all these different people who represent, so many and may or may not actually be appropriately representing, but they're arguing over geopolitics. And it's a huge thing. What was that for you, to be able to be in that moment?
I felt like before the event, when they asked me to sing at the UN, I was, at first I wasn't sure because my schedule was crazy. And then this man named Koye, who heads the Spotlight Initiative at UN, which really looks at gender equity.
Yeah.
He was like, well, is there something you want to say about the state of women? He's like, if you have something that you want to say, then come, share it. And I just loved how he invited me that way. It wasn't oh, hey, can you do a performance? It was not the technicalities of what is happening. It was the bigger picture. And so it planted a seed, and that was before I went to Rome. Then I went to Rome and watched these mothers risk their lives to say something so simple yet so radical at the same time in the current state of the world. And I remember they were walking in silence, and there's a trail of 1,000 people following, and then there's a bunch of press, so they're walking, and then the press was walking backwards, taking pictures of them.
Yeah.
And it was just this really intense moment, and I felt this clarity. I was like, okay, next week I go to the UN and I will carry this message. I'm clear on that. And I was like, oh, maybe I should do the walk barefoot. And people might be wondering, what's this barefoot thing? So Reem and Yael, the 2 leaders of the Mother's Call, wanted to walk barefoot because Reem she thinks about the blood in the soil of the children that their lives who have been taken, and she sometimes feels guilty for wearing shoes. Because she's like,
she's connected to what's in the soil.
In a time where we are forgetting that we're all human, like maybe this will give someone who is scared to speak up to feel a little less alone, that, oh, can't we all just get along? Aren't these just mothers on both sides? There's a thinker named Benj Gershman, and he posted something on...
I follow him on socials and stuff,
On Instagram, the one post he posted, I think it was on October 8th, he said, if you feel any less empathy for victims because of the leaders of their government, propaganda is working on you. I was like, yes, that's the only thing I've seen online that has like stood the test of time. It's so true from every angle.
Totally. I mean, it's like, we've been desensitized to what that actually is doing to our thought processes. And I think that's obviously like affecting people's mental health, which is part of, why I should probably get off Instagram so much and all that. But like, it's a part of our lives. It's a part of our culture. And I have a whole complex about this because I should post more for the podcast to get out there. It's a positive thing in my mind, but it's also like, I don't like to be on socials, but then again, I'm absorbing what I'm on there and, all that stuff. It's a hard thing to navigate.
It is.
And as you go through your career, does it bother you that now like you also have to think like a creator, in order to like put things out there? The adoption of people's music is also influenced by those mediums, right?
Totally. I have had a lot of time to grieve the fact that like the story I've accepted, I don't know if it's true, but we've all kind of accepted it's true. That as musicians, we need to interface with social media in order to get our music across to other people. I think there's truth to it, and there's probably a musician out there that's not doing that, has their audience and is doing their thing. But it's probably at in a different way, different style approach. So I take responsibility for accepting, for buying into the story. So I have bought in because social media has helped to drive my survival as an artist. And I think it's just like, okay, so then we need tools to mediate the impacts of this. So I totally relate to you. I'm like, am I adding to the poison? I don't know. Maybe we'll look back and be like, yeah, we did. I don't know. But I think we're putting light in, and my whole thing was like, I have a few rules with social media. Can I share? Okay. So one is like, I learned this from this genius artist, Shungudzo. She's an incredible musician, but she doesn't post about where she's been or what she's doing, because she's like, for some reason that feels strange. She's like, I don't have body autonomy. It doesn't feel right. Instead, she's like, I choose to post inner thoughts and art. I was like, what a great thing. Yes, let's create boundaries for myself and what I choose to put on social media. So if you look at my social media, you won't see like who I had dinner with or blah, blah, blah. I don't do that. I do, here is a positive offering for you in case you want this for your life. And so my page will always be that if someone wants to come, they're not going to all of a sudden feel bad that they weren't at this event or not enough, or that's my hope. And the people come and it's like, oh, there's a song for me to listen to. Oh, there's, something positive,
That's a beautiful, healthy approach.
Yes. And then I heard on Lewis House's podcast, I love the Lewis House podcast.
Yeah, he's great.
He's great. And so he had a guest on, I forgot his name, but he was giving suggestions about like how to mediate these addictive platforms. So basically 1 hour in the morning of no social media and tech, 1 hour in the evening before you go to bed, no social media or tech, and then having intermittent fasts, like take a day or two off, like once a month or something. Or
it's interesting to term it like a fast, like
because we're literally users.
I know it's not consuming, we're using.
Using.
Like I get
I'm addicted.
I am too. I hear it from my wife and all that, and I see what it does to my 7-year-old, and I know it's a thing to be mindful of. But I think keeping it to the positive stuff and the artistic is really the approach that I should skew towards. And I think what you're doing, what I'm trying to do with this, like we're trying to put more positive corners out there, you know?
Yes.
There's probably going to be way too many corners for it to make sense, but that's a good thing.
I think so.
Yeah, we need that out there. I think the world's
Yeah.
missing like enough outlets in that regard.
I think so too. And like we've been taught, and this will be controversial for some people, we've been taught to scale.
Yeah.
But if we are all thinking that, then we're just like, if we all succeed, we're just then creating a monoculture.
Yeah.
But if you look at nature, it's like so diverse.
Yeah.
Nature wants you to bloom.
Yes.
Like nature wants you to bloom. Your podcast wants to, like, and then there's many of them, so
Yeah.
that's healthier.
I think the biodiversity and like healthy intermingling of species is like what has made Earth like a very beautiful, incredible place to get to
Yeah.
exist for a few brief moments, like in the timeline that we get to, you know, experience. I think it's a great thing to think about. I've been doing a lot of more reading on how nature can benefit your mental health, and some wonderful authors are out there working in that space. There's a guy named Richard Powers that I really enjoy, you know, just the way he ties nature into his stories as a character. And I think we could all get out
Is
there.
that Overstory?
Yeah, Overstory.
So good.
he's-
I'm halfway through.
Oh, are you? Yeah, nice.
So good.
Yeah, as you go through that, I found that I read faster and faster and would like stay in the book longer as the story went on, because it became more exciting and just like engaging. I just really thought it's like a historical documentation, but it's also this incredible story of different things intersecting through nature. And I highly recommend that. And I'd love to chat with you about the book when you're done, because I don't want to give away any of the parts.
It's well said. Like nature does become its own protagonist in that
Yes.
novel.
Yes.
And I think that's like maybe we're just returning. We're doing a return to nature. I think AI is actually going to make us return to nature more, because we're going to need a balance. We're getting to a place where we're going to have to question everything we see on our screens.
Yeah.
The one place we're not going to have to question what is real is when we're face to face like this.
Yeah.
So I think the community building will only get stronger, because it's almost like we're getting reminded, oh, we need that.
Yes.
Like we've taken this whole like individualism thing really far,
Yeah.
and that will continue. But then I think there's going to be another part of us that keeps growing, the antidote, which is community.
I think so too. It's a part of our mental health that we're going to have to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
And so like as artists, I know it's on my mind of how that's going to change the industry, but like the things that you do that are in person and, you know, community based and human based, like those are, like you're saying, those will be so much more needed and so much more, I think, appreciated the more people dive into the digital world. And I'm looking forward to like the positive aspects of that, and I'm excited for La Jolla Playhouse.
I'm so excited.
That opens
You're
in
invited.
July.
Previews start July 17th, and like for those who aren't familiar with that, it's like the story's still changing, so you could come to one preview and we'll take out a song and add a new one, or take out a whole scene.
Oh, how cool.
And then opening night is July 26th. So we get from the 17th to 25th, we get to play and keep experimenting, but then it freezes and locks in format on the 26th.
Is that like the idea of knowing that it's the final version is unsettled? How does that feel to like be like getting closer to that, and like there's that shift that'll happen in that little window?
I'm so excited, because
Okay.
if I wasn't in the process, I would be a little unnerved by it. But like, because I'm in it, I know my body knows that's when I'm going to be able to see if this feels right or it doesn't feel right.
Yep.
It just gives us a lot of clarity, and that's a time when we can really get work done.
Beautiful. That's a great perspective to have on, you know, kind of, I guess, like finalizing the art of it.
Yeah. And then it'll play here, and then if we get lucky, it'll go to another theater, and we'll keep changing it.
Oh, wow.
It just keeps
So it's
evolving.
not really done. It'll just keep changing. Beautiful. I love that. There's so many things that you're working on that I think are healthy for the world and
thanks.
exciting. And so I can't wait to stay in touch and see more of this, hear more of your music, and enjoy your cultural attenuations, if you will.
Beautiful
it's
word.
really meaningful to connect with you and to have you share your story here. Thank you so much for doing this. We're going to talk more, but I think it'll be off pod just because of the format I'm sticking to these days. But I really am grateful that you came here to, you know, meet up and just speak your truth to everyone.
Thank you for having me on What Could Be Bad. It was very good today. It was not bad.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, if it was bad, I'm packing up and that's it. Awesome. Well, thank you, Connie, and everybody. As I always say, be good to yourselves and be good to others. We'll see you next week.